And your host, Desmond.
And this is Better Together Podcast. Today's topic is a very interesting topic. I feel like a lot of people will really be able to be, I don't even want to say inspired, not really inspired, but maybe
Relate.
relate, maybe even a little bit inspired or, um, yeah, something of that effect about this topic. But this topic is about the season of isolation.
Yeah.
This is going to be a very, very good topic. I feel like, in general, when you're a believer, everybody goes through a season of isolation where God really like separates you and like really pours into
Yeah.
you, and that process is ugly. It
Ugly.
hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts so bad. Like I'm just sitting here thinking about. I'm sitting here thinking about it. Like that was a very tough time for me. But yeah, we're gonna talk about that. I don't know if you want to start that
What?
off.
You can start it off. Like,
Okay.
when did the season of isolation start for you?
So, like I mentioned in the previous episode, I want to say I'm gonna paraphrase it like this. I knew of God, but I didn't really know Him until my
Mm-hmm.
season of isolation. And so, like I mentioned, I baptized as a young girl, spoke in tongues as a young girl, but I think that my relationship that I had with God, I won't put relationship in quotations because I don't really feel like I had a relationship with Him, but how I knew of God was because of the people that I was around. My grandmother and my mom, like going to church, seeing all the formality of church. But to really know God, I did not know Him until I want to say maybe I was like 25, 26,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy because spoke in tongues, danced in church, did a praise dance, was on the choir, um, was in the praise team, but I really didn't truly have a relationship with God. Read my word, but it wasn't really like no revelation that was happening because I believe that I didn't really have a relationship with Him. And so, like, what led to that season of isolation, as I mentioned, I was with a guy. He was really a street dude,
Mm-hmm.
and I was with him for quite a long. Well, really wasn't even too long before he passed away. But I was with him. I was thinking, this is my man. We ready to get married. I mean, we talked about being married and everything. And one day, he wasn't here anymore. I remember getting a call because we would talk all the time, and I remember texting him one day, and he did not respond, and that was not like him. And so I knew something was up because I kept texting him, no response, and I ended up. I don't know if I called his mom or I called somebody in his family. No, I think I called his friend, and I told his friend like, hey, he's not answering. I don't know what's going on. Check on that. I ended up getting a call from the FBI later that day. I'll never forget. I was working at a call center, Navient, and they told me that he was dead. And I'm telling you, this is like probably one of the most painful times in my life. I remember just I was outside in my car, I was on break, and they gave me that call, and I just like my whole world stopped at that moment. I was like, what in the world? Like I felt like a part of me had like been ripped
Gone.
away. Yeah, it was gone. And y'all, when I say, oh my God, I'm just sitting there thinking, like, I'm really, and I can visually see this happening right now while I'm talking. And so that's why I'm like,
Yeah.
but I remember just being in a place of like, what now? Like, what am I going to do?
Right.
It was, it was really tough. I really was feeling like I had no purpose in living anymore, which is really crazy because your identity shouldn't be in
Based off of that.
anybody.
Yeah.
It's you have your own identity outside of somebody, and so I didn't even know who I was. Basically, for me to basically say now, looking back, or reflecting back on where I was at mentally there, the fact that I was so to the point, like low to the point where I didn't want to live, and I was just like, what now? Like I have no purpose. Mind you, I had two kids. That just speaks to the mental state that I was in. Like I just was not myself. I remember like going home that day, and I was a hot mess, crying, waking up crying, going to sleep crying, in the shower crying, crying. I was to the point where I was trying to take like a bunch of melatonin to go to sleep because I couldn't stay asleep.
The
I was
round
waking
racing.
up. Yeah, I was waking up in the middle of the night crying. Like it was real bad. And I remember even my mom and my sisters at this time, they all was coming to stay with me. They even slept in the bed with me.
Wow.
And I still felt so empty. I had all these people around me and I still felt so empty. And I remember, and this is why I thank God that I went back to what I knew of
Right.
at this point because, like I said, I was filled with the Holy Ghost and baptized at the age of 7. I was to the point where I was like, God, I don't want to be here no more. And that was a really low place. But I remember, um, I don't even know how it happened, but I started to encourage myself because I was just playing the Kirk Franklin song every single day. The storm is over now, and I was just the storm over now, like crying and singing it. But like, and
Yeah.
it was healing me though.
Yeah.
It was healing me. It was healing me. And I didn't even know it, but I would play that song in the shower. I would play that song all day, every day. That same song. That was like the song that helped me,
Get through it.
get
Get through that
through.
time.
And before I knew it, like that began to heal me to the point where, even during that time, I remember that's when I got in my word.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was to the point where I felt like I lost everything. I didn't have no purpose, and God started speaking to me, and I remember just opening up my Bible, and all of a sudden revelation came because I was growing. It was at this point it's just me and God now. I don't have a man. I'm feeling like I'm alone. But this is exactly I believe what God had placed in place for me to, you know what I'm saying, like get to the point where I needed to be or where he wanted me to
Yeah.
be. And so I remember just like I said before, like I was so in my word. I had my women's study Bible and I kept that thing with me everywhere that I went. Like on my lunches, I was reading my Bible. I remember this one guy, he was a janitor. He came up. He was like, "Are you reading the Bible?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm reading the Bible." Like I was like in my word. And I remember like even at work, during calls, I would just meditate on scriptures. So like I was really in a place of getting to know or letting God, for
Speak to you.
speak to me,
In a,
fortify me, and show me who He called me to be. And so yeah, very dark place. But what I will say is, when you allow God to heal you,
mm-hmm.
you gonna come out of that thing before you know it.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, like he had only probably been gone for like 3 months. I was able to smile again. Like I was being like God had started to really do a work within me so quickly because I really was focused on nothing other than Him during that time. And so yeah, that was
It's
that
a
was
it's a it's a it's a feeling and a place no one wants to go to,
yeah.
but at the same time, it's a place you have to go to
Everybody, I believe.
when when God is trying to pull something else out of you.
Hmm.
And he will, believe it or not, he will allow the worst thing to happen to you that you do not want to happen to you,
To get your attention.
just to get your attention, so that you can get into the place to where you can hear him and only him.
Yeah, so
Because
it's
we get so caught up into just
everyday stuff.
everyday stuff, daily life, waking up, going to our jobs, dealing with our, spouse, our kids, and just when you get done with doing all that, half of the
You
time
tired.
you tired. You
Ready
ain't
to
got
go
you
to
ain't got
bed.
time for nothing else.
Hmm.
So when you do all that, and then on top of that, you try to make time for yourself, and then you try to have your little fun here and there. Then you still ain't got time for God, and you next thing you know, you done went 365 days
Right.
out the year without speaking to God. You ain't even know, just saying, Lord, lay me down to sleep, so to keep all that before you go to bed. That's not
That ain't
good enough.
enough. Yeah.
Waking up doing that's not good enough.
Right.
When we have 24 hours in a day and we can't even spend, and God is still working on me, so like, because I need to get whooping for that too. I still need to do better in that area. He's giving
Yeah,
us
me
24
too.
hours in a day, and we can go. Now that I'm learning, I can't go now without make sure I'm talking to him throughout the day. But just going throughout the day without talking to God is a bad thing, bad place to be in. Like that's a bad spot to be in.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't feel that way now if I didn't have to go through my season of
Yeah,
isolation
let's
when I
let's
went.
let's get into that because
Okay,
that's a good story right there. Like when did your season of isolation start? Like how did that happen?
but truth be told, the isolation really started years ago.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Through childhood, throughout. You know, we really never know that we're going through isolation until you get into a place where really God
Shows you.
is really showing you.
Yeah.
Because we try to just cover
Hmm.
those things up and with just just to fill
Anything.
that void with
Yeah.
anything. But I believe that's really happened. Just feeling yeah. Because we just we're gonna talk about it. Just I'm the I told y'all my father's a pastor. I have a big family. It's 18 of us, brothers and sisters. Uh, 12 girls, 6 boys. Um, and I love them dearly. I love my parents dearly. But I'm the 12th. I come in at the 12th spot of the 18th. So just imagine if you guys don't have a big family. My mom, my dad, he's a pastor. He's pastoring. He's working nonstop. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Just to make sure he's providing. Back then, yes, my mom had food stamps, but it was so many of us. She couldn't afford to put us in no daycare. She couldn't afford to do all that, so
Right.
she had to be a stay-at-home mom. She had to
Hmm.
raise, do all of that, and she did that to the best of her ability. I love her
Yeah.
for that. My father did to the best of his ability, and I love him for that. But she could only do so much.
Yeah.
He could only do so much. As far as that time a person need as a child to what I'm saying, to shape them, mold them. With that being said, I'm the 12th. There was some there was some void missing. There were some things missing in my life that I feel like I didn't have. You know, that made me what I'm saying, feel away growing up to my feeling insecure, self doubt,
Hmm.
going into my what I'm saying, previous years of becoming an adult. So is it dealing with that? Then we're always encountering certain things. Then you think you find someone. I told you I was previously married. You get married one time, and then you thought you found love in another way to fill that void from, you know what I'm saying, from
Yeah.
that you was missing as a child. Then you get that. Then that shatters you.
That don't turn out. Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying. So then like it brings you back into another dark place. But then
Yeesh.
you still try to just cover that up with
Hmm.
other stuff, and then which I did. I tried to cover it up with other stuff until God really allowed a pandemic to hit this earth. 2020, somewhere around March or April, I've caught. I was at work and I caught COVID. You know,
Hmm.
and this was at the time. Everybody know around this time. It was at the peak of
Bad
COVID.
COVID. That's COVID. People was
Was
dropping like
dropping like good
flies.
health, bad health. It don't even matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
Hmm.
that's all. But that's all they was portraying or putting on the TV, putting on the TV that people was just, oh, this person died from COVID.
Right.
So yeah, that's the time that I caught COVID-19, and I just remember when I caught it, it was like the worst feeling. And I'm a type of person, I rarely get sick.
Yeah.
I rarely get sick. So when I got COVID, it was just like bothering me. Like it shook me to the core.
I can't even
You
imagine
know,
having COVID back then.
yeah, it shook me to the core. It shook me to
That's
the
a
core.
scary time too. Like
When I say I was scared, I was nervous. Like I was scared because then at the time, you
I
know,
feel like COVID was new. Was COVID new when you had COVID? Like was
yeah,
it
it was
fresh? Like
fresh.
fresh out?
It was fresh. So and just the thing at the time to remind y'all, I'm a man enough to say at 2020, I have things that happened and I moved back in with my parents.
Hmm.
You know, and I was staying with them for a while. And so when I caught COVID, knowing that everything that happened with my father, my mom, as they getting older, I didn't want to,
Bring that
bring
home
that home to them.
because the older people was
They
the
was
ones
really,
that was
yeah,
really not making it,
they
especially if they
was.
had any type of other
That's how you knew
underlying thing.
it was nothing
Yeah.
but God keeping us and keeping me. And when I tell y'all I had every symptom of COVID, anything you could probably think of with this COVID story, like I've had it. Everything from sweating in my sleep to lost the taste from eating. Anything you can,
I
literally anything you can think
remember
of.
I remember, I think it was like D and Jessica who said like you had lost a lot of weight,
Man, and I'm
which
already
is
skinny.
crazy. That's what I'm saying. You
Look at me,
already,
and I've
oh
been
my
skinny all
god,
my life.
you probably was looking
I
sick.
was looking sick. Like I ain't gonna lie to y'all.
How much
It may
weight
sound
did
crazy,
you?
but like, it looked like I had that thing. I ain't gonna
What?
lie.
What's that thing?
That thing is the HIV.
Right.
Hey, look, I know this is a serious
Ooh, I
topic,
can't.
but
So
whew,
was you like your
it's like
face
it
was
was like
all? You can see
you can
bones.
see it like in my shoulder. Like you can really see it in my shoulder.
Oh.
Like it was bad. You know what I'm saying? I was like, and every time
So you really, I'm sorry, this just really made me think what that pastor said was really true because you really went through a Job season.
I went
You
through
was
it,
inflicted. You was
and I didn't even
really,
think about that
you
till
was
now.
really,
I was really like everything that I thought. Like it's crazy you just brought it up because everything that I had at one point in time literally started. It seemed like even though it was over a year, but it seemed like it
gone.
just like going from one
Marriage.
marriage to losing my. I can't see my kids every day. All that started to play with. But boom, that happened. That happened. Then to get afflicted with something that I had no control over. So just imagine how I felt
Yeah.
during that time. But I will say, COVID was the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
And that sounds crazy, but during the season of COVID is the closest I've ever been with God.
Mm-hmm.
They like it even shocked me to the core because I never knew that I could even get that close to Him or just and the beautiful feeling about it is it got to the point to where I was forgetting that I was even sick.
Wow.
That's how
Honey,
that was the
that's deep.
beautiness like in into that, and that's why I say it's important when
Psalms
God really trying
91.
to show yeah, he that's what I'm saying
Because you,
dwell in the
the
secret
fact
place of
that
the
you
Most High.
said, yeah.
Like I'm telling you, like that's exactly what it was. It was that experience. I was sick and afflicted. Yes, everybody was crying out for God help, but it got to the point to where at one point my cry turned into I'm just praising Him for just who He like that feeling and just being in the presence of God every day and just like things that He was revealing to me. Just you know what I'm saying? Just waking up, every day and just knowing I could feel the presence of God, just
Mm-hmm.
get more revelation from God. It was just,
Exciting.
it was a beautiful feeling. And I think that isolation, yes, I had to go through some pain. I had to go through. I really was isolated. I had COVID, so I had to isolate myself from everybody. Just to
Mm-hmm.
think I couldn't go out for a period of time. And I'm telling you, people was getting COVID, either they was dropping dead, but and then at that time they were saying you had to quarantine for 2 3 weeks. You know, and I believe this was God too because it seemed like every time went back to go get tested again to
You
see
had
if I did,
COVID again.
they still said it was in my system. It
Yeah,
never
you
said
had
it was clear.
COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah.
never cleared
Oh,
up. So it was starting to bother me. I'm like, Lord, am I
I'm
gonna
about to
have this thing
die.
for the rest of my life or something?
Yeah.
Because every time I went, it was saying I was still in my system.
Wow.
So I was like, I don't understand. I'm so confused. I know I ain't got it now, But it was just God really showing me that at that
He
time,
wanted you
like
to sit.
He wanted me to sit and
He's like,
enjoy that time with Him. Because if He knew if I would have got
I was
up
just going to say that. You would
at
have
that
went
moment
back
in
to
time,
the
I would have went back to the
same.
same things I was
Mm-hmm.
doing before I got afflicted.
Yeah.
And I was saying 1 foot in, 1 foot out, just dibbling and dabbling, doing whatever I wanted to do, getting up for work, thinking, that's another topic we get to one day, but thinking you can live any type of life and still come to God any type of way.
Mm-mm.
It don't work like that. He's
Mm-mm.
he's, he's gonna humble you. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna humble you real quick. I'm not saying we have to be perfect, but
He
he
requires us.
requires a certain
Yeah.
lifestyle from you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That you're supposed to uphold and obtain if you say that you are his. He's requiring that from you. And he showed me during that time. I mean, he showed me things I've never, when I say dreams, that I've never seen before. Just things that opened my eyes like, wow, God, you really, and it's
Oh.
crazy. He really was showing me stuff that he really, like, during that time that he already showed me, like, before I had COVID. It's just I was ignoring it, like the gifts and the things he's trying to
That
pour
was
out
just
to me.
great ask. That was great ask. Like, do you feel like when you were isolated that you like that was a time that God really started speaking to
He
you, or
started
like do
speaking
you
to
feel
me.
like you already had like the gift of dreams and stuff before?
Yeah, I had the gifts of dreams before. Excuse me, gifts of dreams before. But like I said, I was just with no understanding.
Right, I
You
was
would
gonna say you
just be
probably
out
just
here
shaking it
just
off
lost.
as like, oh, just a dream.
Yeah, and no understanding. And then at one point in time, of course, if you're not in your word, you would definitely be lost. So
Mhm.
that's number two. But when you growing up, back in the day, we didn't really hear too much of prophecy. We didn't hear too much of
Right.
dreams, all that. That really wasn't taught. It was either
Yeah.
you're going to
That
hell,
part.
you're going to heaven.
Yeah.
Live saved. You don't do this, you're going to. That's
Mhm.
what we heard. But it was never really no teachings on the other
Prophecy.
things to make
This.
us,
Yeah.
more aware of the
The
gifts.
things that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
things that God placed in us. So He's already shown me things even since I was a child of dreams and things that I've seen. That I never knew I had, or it was a part of the gift of the prophetic until that time of me having COVID. And he just showed me the things that he already showed me the things that was gonna happen with COVID, just the famine, all of those other things that happened. But just being in that place of isolation really just like it showed me a lot. It showed
Yeah.
me it's important. I always say isolation comes before elevation.
That's true.
He isolates you. You gotta separate you from everybody else and then from the things that you're used to doing to to get you to a place of where he really wants you. So
Yeah.
yeah, that time of woo, it was crazy. But I had one story I will like talk about during that time of isolation. I think this was the beginning of it. Um, when I was when I got sick, I'll never forget it. They didn't have the tests and stuff at first.
Mhm.
They was just now because it was new. They was still trying to figure out what can we give them to keep this from people from getting sick
Mhm.
before they came out with the vaccines and all of that. And they had just like started to come out with the vaccine, but they only had limited. They were only giving them to the elderly, all those people
Oh
who were
yeah.
sick,
Yeah.
all that type of stuff because they were the ones it was
Going
going
out.
out first.
Mhm.
Like. So I went to the hospital. I'm like, man, I know I got I know I got COVID. I know this like something's wrong with me, or I know I'm going to pretty much leave here. And I remember I was having a conversation with God in that hospital room when I think before they came in or to see me or anything like that.
I know you're going. I was gonna
Yeah,
ask you about that. I was gonna
I
bring
was
that up,
having a
but you bring it
conversation
up
with
anyway.
God, and I literally landed on the bed, and I was like, I started thinking when you facing death, or when you think you about to die, then when the enemy play with your mind, you start thinking of everything. It's like your life flashed right before your eyes. I was thinking about my kids. I was thinking about them. The main thing I was thinking about my parents, my brothers and sisters, all the people I love.
Yeah.
It's like, God, why? Like you brought me all. Like, why would you just allow
Mhm.
me to have all these things and just
Jesus.
to, like you
I can't
said,
even
Job experience,
imagine
and just to like for it to just me to just leave here like this. But God, I'm telling you, just that's why God really wanted to know if you really
where your heart at.
where your heart is and do you really love Him first? Because it's not about whether you're here on earth or we with Him, because we all have a date to where we got to
Right.
leave and go back home with Him. He just want to know where you standing at on that day when your name is called.
Mhm.
And it got to a place where I was saying earlier to where I literally made up my mind. I said I was in that place. I was like, God, if you take me, I'm ready.
Mhm.
I literally had to be comfortable with that. And at first, I
Yeah.
was not comfortable. I was saying, no, I don't want to
That
leave here.
almost makes me emotional, like to think about, cause that's really hard. Like
Yeah, just to say, like, like just to think, like, I can
if I
just leave
gotta go
here.
today, like
Yeah, like, and I had to make my mind up. I had to get to the place where I say, God, if you don't heal me from this,
mhm.
I am okay. I got to be okay with it. God, I still love you enough. I still thank you for my kids. I still thank you for all this.
Honey,
And I literally
that'll
got to
preach
that.
right there. You
I
making me.
literally got to that place, and I literally had to, be comfortable with it. But actually, I'm like, God, with tears flowing on my face, I said, God, if you want me to live, you'll show me a sign. And when I told you in the previous
That's your
episode,
favorite phrase.
yeah, yeah,
Cause you said
because
that.
like God was people. I think I'm playing. If you're really serious, ask God to show you something. He's going to show you.
Just be okay with that. He may not show it the way that you
Yeah,
think, cause
just be
it
okay
may
with
not
that
be.
because it might not be the way that you want him to
Yeah.
be, but he's going to show you this with
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there on the bed, and literally this. I'm not lying to you. If I'm lying, God can strike me down. I'm sitting on the bed, and God said, I literally heard something whisper in my ear say, "Go look at a picture on Facebook that I took. I think earlier that year with my kids." And he said, go look at it. And remind y'all, at one point in time, I was saying the number 515 all the time. Like clock. Every time I see the clock, it was 515. I'm like, man. But like I said, once you have no knowledge of it, you really never understand. You just keep going on with your day. 5:15, 5:15, 5:15. I'm like, what does this mean? You know, keep seeing this number. I was looking on TV, see it and watching sports. I see somebody jersey one next to another, and they say 5, and the next person's jersey say 15. Back.
Wow.
I'm like, that's just how it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But I went on with this time. I mean, seeing those things for a long period of time with no knowledge, so I didn't understand it until that day. I'm laying on the bed, and God said, go look at that picture. And I looked at that picture, and I had 515 likes exactly.
Dang, what post was that?
Yeah, it was a picture with me and the kid. But you see, that's probably still on there. It was 515 likes on Facebook. If I'm lying, God can strike me down. And when I seen that, I'm like, oh, okay. But that's the first thing that popped in my mind. I'm like, okay, but
what does it mean?
What does it mean? And I'm sitting there, I'm tossing and turning, and God just said, just look it up, just Google it. You know, you got to be careful what source you Google.
Please,
but I typed in the number 515 biblically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, spiritual, what the word says. And the first thing popped. Matter of fact, I didn't even do that. That's how you know it was God in it. I typed in 515, and literally the scripture popped up. James 5:15. I can't remember all of what it said, but I know it says, those who are sick, God will heal you.
Wow.
And he would deliver you from all of your sins. That's deep.
Hold on, I think you should look that up. I think you should look it up real quick.
Yeah, I might look it up just to let y'all know the right way.
Yeah.
James 5:15.
Yeah, that's deep.
It says.
So what if, were you seeing that before you had COVID?
I was in 5:15 waiting for it.
Because what if God was trying to show you was going to be afflicted?
That's what I'm saying.
Because 5:15, and then for him to make you go look it up, it was already showing you that verse. So God could have been, and that's why it's important to really, you know what I'm saying, like be in the face of God or no, because I believe that sometimes God will send warning or instruction, you know, to you before a matter. So the fact that you were seeing 5:15, but you had no knowledge,
I'm gonna go to the
or no revelation on what exactly that meant, and then for you to finally, after being on your bed of affliction, you know what I'm saying, like, know that. Yeah, it's crazy.
I have to read it to you guys right now. It says, "And the prayer of the faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up."
Wow.
And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven.
Oh, that's awesome. That just shows, oh my God, like that is really, really deep. It just shows the compassion and the care for, like,
that God has.
Can't nobody say God not real? Can't nobody say God is not real?
Immediately, y'all, I'm not lying to y'all, when I read that scripture, chills came all over my body. Like all the hairs on my arm was standing up.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there like, and it seemed like my tears dried up immediately, because that was just my sign that it wasn't my time to go.
Yeah.
And from that day forward, no matter what I felt in my body, I knew that I was not leaving here.
Yeah.
So
stand on his word.
I had to stand on that, and I had to stand every time something happened. I felt I had to go back to James 5:15.
There you go.
And keep repeating that word, and because what they say, if you have the word in your heart, you know what I'm saying, you might not sin against it, but just you'll be able to
quote those when the time of the enemy tries to, you know,
plant certain seeds in your head.
The devil is a lie. You speak the truth.
Yeah.
Over, you know, the things that the enemy tries to say to you.
Yeah. So that like the season of isolation is not always a bad thing. God will. That's the time mostly is when God's trying to reveal Himself to you
and make you really, like, for real, like you said, elevation. But that comes to a point of like when He's trying to develop you for real. So like, I always say that I don't feel like it necessarily should always be hard. Mm-hmm. But if you have purpose and there's something that God is truly, well, He's predestined everybody for a purpose. But like, if there's something that God has really called you to do, He will knock you down in the most humbling way to get your attention. So I've always told people, like, you just never want God to take you to that point. Mm-hmm. So it's very it's very
It's a whooping.
Yeah, it's a
He's
whooping.
gonna whoop you. He's
Yeah,
gonna show you.
and it ain't nice. It's a what do they call it, chastising.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. But I've always said to people like you don't want to get to that point, and so like just walking in obedience so that you don't have to go
Mm-hmm.
through. And it's not that you're not going to go through isolation because, like you said, everybody goes through a season of isolation before God elevates you.
Yeah.
But like the magnitude of it, like you should never want to have to, like in my case, lose somebody for you to have to, be prepared for that. But if God has to do that to you, He will.
So the real question is why? And I'm asking you. You could probably ask me. Why do you think God allowed you to experience what you've experienced to get you to that place?
Because, like I said, because I know that God has called me to something, and it's like I don't know how long I would have been wandering around or doing whatever I was doing. You know what I'm saying? Like just going around like a chicken with my head cut off. And that part, and I really want to take time to thank God about that because it just brings me to the point of like what I see so many people, young people that die before their time. It's
Yeah.
like you didn't even unlock your purpose. You may
Not
not
at
even
all.
know who God has called you to be. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thankful that God even brought me to the place where it's like, yo, you got purpose. I gotta bring this thing to happen so that you can go in the right direction. But I also want to say too, I believe also the prayers that my
Our
grandma,
parents, grandma. Yeah.
my great grandma, like I was out here in these streets and I was cutting up.
Yeah.
I was cutting up, and I believe it was the prayers of the righteous that brought me in.
He has to bring certain things closer to home
Yeah,
because he know it wouldn't affect you
yeah,
the way that it should if he kept allowing certain the other things that happened that you was
mm-hmm.
normal used to like you was cutting up doing all that
Right.
going to
No
partying
impact.
drinking going back to the lifestyle. This is not getting to her, so I have to take something that's dear and close to her that I know that she don't want, but at the same I have to remove this because
So the way I can get
that's the
attention.
only way I'll be able
But
to
I
get her
also just
attention.
thought about this too. I believe that some people are or have gone through that situation but didn't have enough spiritual revelation or knowledge to know that this is what God was doing to,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? Because some people still wander around aimlessly, like, just going through things and not noticing like God is trying to get your attention.
But this is what this moment is for.
Yeah.
This is what this time is for. It's for us and for you. You know, for someone who might experience what you experienced with losing a loved one, losing a lover or someone dear to them in their life. They're still battling with it. They're still
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out how to get through it. And
You only gonna make it with God. At the end of the day, if you're in a situation, whether it's like my situation or that like you feel like something from you has died or
yeah,
like something like there's a great impact or something, you know what I'm saying, like just that void, the only way that you are going to make it over is with God. You will find yourself worse off than you were before, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, if you don't connect to God in those moments. I'm telling you, I honestly, I don't even know, like, I don't even want to know if I can say that on the podcast, but I may have not have been here. I'll just say that,
yeah,
like, because the enemy during that's why it's so important to be connected to God, because he will play tricks on your mind heavy, like he will plant seeds of doubt, like make you think about just not being here anymore, like fear, all those kind of things that the enemy can try to do to you. And if you don't have God, you're not grounded, you could, it could really, and I believe honestly that's how some people end up with, suicide and,
yeah. It
things
is
that, yeah,
most of the time
yeah,
because they experience certain things and they don't
they don't know how to
have the
deal with
right
it.
sources or the right
Mm-hmm.
things in their life that keep them from not thinking about
Yeah,
taking their life or thinking about what has happened.
yeah,
You know, because what they say, it don't get easier.
yeah,
You know, it ain't like that pain goes away, but with time, God would allow, you know what I'm saying, with the right resources and right people in your life, God will teach you ways to how to
sustain you.
sustain you.
Like I can't remember what scripture it was, but like just about that scripture, I cannot remember who it was, but just that thorn on the side that may never be removed.
Yeah.
But God gives you the grace
Paul.
to,
Paul was
okay,
talking about
but God gives you that grace to just still, you know what I'm saying, like press on, press on. And so yeah, I just feel like if you're in a season of isolation or a season where you feel like you have nobody, um, it's a perfect time and opportunity for
Yeah.
you to grow or, try God. I'm telling you, I was to the point where I was like, I ain't got nothing. You might as well just take me now, God. But I tried God, and my life has never been the same since. Like I said, I really got to know who I was. Like God started to speak to me about who I am, because just to really get into this, but then wrap this up. Um, I didn't know. Like my dad wasn't ever around. My mom, she did what she had to do. She worked multiple
Mm-hmm.
jobs to provide for her children because my dad and my mom divorced at a very when I was 7. So I had an identity issue,
Right.
and so I always seek validation with the person that I was with. And I feel like that's a lot of people's issues now,
Yep.
especially women. Like we try to get in a relationship and we think that that person, being with that person, defines us, but you don't know that God has formed you and
Yeah.
purposed you since you were in your mother's womb. Jeremiah 29:11. Like
Yeah.
you have a purpose. You're called to be somebody individually. A union, that's wonderful, but who are you outside of that
Right.
person? You
Because
got to know.
it's gonna take more than that. Like
Yeah,
your spouse or your partner you with, like it
they
ain't
should
gonna
add
uphold
to
you.
you,
Yeah, they should
not be
add to you,
you,
not be
not
you.
not
If you just
make
rely
up
on
who you
them
are.
for for everything, and you have no substance, like
You ain't It ain't gonna work.
it ain't
You're
gonna
gonna
work.
find yourself always, and I feel like that's the reason why I was in a repetitious cycle of the men that I dated,
Mm-hmm.
because I had no substance. I didn't know who I was, so I was just accepting anything,
Right.
But when I took that time before I met you, like I said, I was not focused on God. Even though I had a prayer that I prayed, like, God, the next man that I meet, I want him to be a prayerful man. I want him to be a man that loves God. That was it. I threw that to the back of my head, and I really just was focusing on me and God. And so I believe, like I said, like just knowing, like during that time of knowing who I was, letting God build me up, really led me to the point of, all around, um, just me being better, like for myself, me meeting you, coming out of that season of like it just all worked together. Okay, it worked
Yeah,
together.
it did. So I think, and like to wrap this up, I believe everybody need a isolation period. I believe everybody needs one because it's really going to show you you.
Hmm.
It's going to show you where you are, and it's going to show you how much you need God.
Yeah.
Regardless of what we try to fill those things, those voids with, we need God. And I thank God for my isolation period because if I never went through that time, I wouldn't know who God really called me to be and calling me to be.
Hmm.
I would never really seen and knew like, oh, this was God. God been showing me this all these years, and I never even knew it because I never even took the time to even find out.
Right.
So I do believe it's important that we all go through it, and I pray that when you go through your isolation period, that you get what you need from 'em, and yeah, anything that you've been praying for, anything that you feel like you've been lacking, any voids, I believe God will fill it. You just have to really take the time and search and ask God what it is, and He'll reveal it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah. I agree with everything you said. And so, like I said, I just think that it's important. Like, if you feel like you're in that season, please cling to God. Like, you'll find out more and more in the day and age that we live in that we cannot make it without God. And so, yeah, that pretty much wraps
Right,
up
just
our episode for today. We thank you guys. We love you guys. And
like,
we,
share,
yes,
comment,
like, comment, share, subscribe to
all
our
of it.
channel. Again, we want to keep this as genuine, as honest, as open as possible.
Most of all, hopefully that we're reaching someone that I don't care if it's just one.
Yeah,
Hopefully that what we're doing is not in vain, and that this is still ministry at the end of the day. Um, so we want to touch people. Everybody's going through something,
mm-hmm.
and hopefully what we talk about that we can reach someone who's experiencing it or experienced it.
Yeah,
So we can be a blessing and just a help to y'all. So we
yeah.
thank you once again.
And we love you
Love
guys.
y'all.
Thank you for watching. Peace.